Governor Whitmer. The Whitmer Plot. Remember this? This was when Big Gretchrona, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, out of Michigan, was allegedly under the surveillance of a group of guys who wanted to kidnap her. And the FBI kind of allegedly infiltrated this very secretive group and then busted them at the last minute and said, wow, they were really going to do this thing. They were actually, this group of guys, these white supremacist sort of militia members, were going to go and literally kidnap the governor. And we covered the story. We went through the police report, went through a lot of the material that we had at the time. And as the case goes on, defense attorneys get their hands on it and they start digging in. And they want answers to very important questions. And as this case is unfolding, very troubling information is coming about from the FBI showing that they may have been involved in a direct cover-up. You can be the judge of that, but cover-up, I think, is the most appropriate word here. And we're going to take a look at text messages that came from a special agent, FBI agent, over to an undercover informant promoting that lie. Let's get into it. The headline comes over from Michigan Live, says that a dark shadow cast on the probe of the Whitmer kidnap plot now that the FBI told an informant to lie and delete texts, according to an attorney. We're going to take a look at this attorney. His name is Michael Hills. He drafted a document on behalf of Brandon Caserta, he's representing him, asking a federal judge ordering the government to provide all discovery. I'm going to explain what that is here in a minute. The government has said it's already provided a bunch of this stuff and you don't need any more of it. All right, so what's happening here? We are in a situation where the defense is fighting over discovery. It's called disclosure. It looks like a motion like this. And this is being filed out of the Western District of Michigan for the Southern Division. Brandon Caserta is one of the guys who is a part of that group. Remember, there was a group of 6 to 8 of them, maybe as many as 10. A lot of questions about who really made up the group, because now, allegedly, some of those people may have been FBI agents or undercover secret informants, government informants. And so what the defense is doing now, that Brandon Caserta has been charged with this conspiracy, is they're taking the evidence that has been provided and they're dissecting it. And they're identifying where there are some gaps. They say, hey, thanks, government. You gave us a lot of this information, but we need more. We're going to look into that one little spot a little bit more in depth. And so back in July, this defense lawyer filed this motion on July 12th and said, listen, we filed a motion to compel discovery. Remember that discovery in a criminal case, it's all with the government. They have all of the evidence. They have the police reports. The police did the work. They have all, chemical testing they do in DUI cases or drug cases. They have all of the body camera footage. They have all of the witness statements. They have it all. So if you're a defendant in a defense position, you're at a disadvantage. You need the government to give you the stuff that you need to build your defense. And so if they have something that they're not going to give to you, you have to compel them to do that. You have to go to the judge and you have to say, listen, judge, I'm asking you, compel them, demand them to give us that information. We need it for our defense. And so they did that, of course, back in July, and it is still being kicked around. Back in July, the defense attorney filed the motion to compel, and they wanted the court to give them certain data. The cell phone data right here regarding confidential informant, AKA Dan. This undercover person named Dan, they want his cell phone data as well as cell phone data for FBI agents called Henrik Impola and Jason Chambers. They want all of their cell phone records. To support this request, Brandon Caserta and the defense lawyer, they produced a small portion of text messages between Dan, this undercover person, Dan's FBI handler, who is Jason Chambers, and Dan. Okay, so we have this secret message going back and forth. We're going to explain this out a little bit further. These text messages are indicating that the FBI was pushing their paid agent to actively recruit people into an overt act in furtherance of a conspiracy. They're saying here that they need cell phone records from FBI agents, 2 of them, Impola and Chambers, and they want to know what the conversations were between those 2 special agents and this other person called Dan, who is an undercover informant. They say we need this information. It's very important to our case. Brandon Caserta is being charged with a conspiracy here. There may be some involvement from government officials, particularly the FBI. So the government responds now and says, well, the government suggests for the following reasons that you don't need this stuff. They say this information is not relevant. They say it's overbroad. They say it's protected by an informant privilege. You don't get access to that anyways. It says the government will review the material and then internally decide if the material is discoverable. And they say, well, it's also voluminous, right? There's a lot of discovery. It's like, oh, there's so much of it. so we don't need to give it to you. So the government says, well, we have all of that data. I mean, of course, we have the special agent's cell phone records, but we don't want to give it to you. It's not relevant. It's too broad. It's already protected information, and it's too much. It's voluminous. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at it at the FBI. We'll let you know if you need it, and we'll give it to you. Well, the defense says, no, not now. We're not going to do that. That doesn't sound good. That's a pretty bad deal. So we actually do want this. Specifically, the defense is asking the court to order the production of this stuff. All communication between Special Agent Impola and Chambers and Dan regarding this investigation, so that you see that they're narrowing this down. The government says, oh no, it's too voluminous. You're asking for way too much. And they say, no, it's not too much. We just want a couple things. Just the messages between Impola and Chambers regarding this investigation, as well as Dan's communication between himself and anyone else regarding this investigation, whether it's encrypted on chat or Facebook direct or text messages or photos or any other thing else regarding this investigation. So we don't need an entire phone dump or an extraction. We don't need it all. It's not overbroad. It's not too voluminous. It's not lacking in specificity. It's exactly what we need. So go get it for us. Now, the government is responding and saying, well, it says that we have not provided enough evidence to demonstrate a need for that information. Government says, well, you really haven't explained why you need it, or you haven't really met your burden. The only thing you offer is an exchange between an informant and an agent. Yeah, so what? They talked. So what? So what? The special agents had a conversation with Dan. Doesn't matter. Counsel stands by his motion. Defense counsel says that Dan, the secret agent or the undercover person, is the center of all activity, and that the agents are pushing Dan to actively recruit and entice people into a conspiratorial agreement. Dan is at the heart of the case, and they say fundamental fairness says we got to get access to that. They reference an old case that said that when disclosure of an informer's identity or the contents of his communication is relevant, it's essential that the privilege that protects the informant give way and that the defendant get the benefit. So the government comes out here and says, well, Dan, he was involved in this, but you don't need any of that information. He's just an informant. It's just an agent. They're just having conversations about this. And by the way, if you want access to that, too bad. It's privileged because of informant privilege. Well, the defense comes back out and says, by the way, Dan happens to be the center person of this agreement. And it's not like you guys were having conversations about lunches or where you were going to meet up incidentally to the underlying conspiracy. This was the entire conspiracy. The FBI, according to this defense attorney, was specifically recruiting Dan or coaching Dan to recruit other people to be a part of the conspiracy. So Dan was an agent of the FBI, which is essentially a entrapment. It would be like an FBI agent going and actively recruiting and enticing people to commit a crime they would not have otherwise done. The FBI is not doing it. They're using Dan to do it. And the defense is saying, we need that information, because that implicates the entire FBI. The government, of course, is, oh, no, you don't need that. It's a fishing expedition. This is all too voluminous. Defense attorney comes back out and says, listen, we have already provided ample support for this original discovery motion, but we're happy here to provide even more evidence in further support of this motion. Goes on, as described more below in detail, counsel has found even further text messages from FBI handlers, this is big, demonstrating that the FBI asked Dan to destroy his text messages and then lie to Pete Musico, founder of the Wolverine Watchmen, and accuse an innocent individual as being an undercover federal agent spying on Mr. Musico. Okay, one more time. We have the FBI now is communicating to Dan, special agents, this is the allegation, going out to Dan, and Dan is now going and recruiting other people. When Dan goes and has a conversation with some of the Wolverine Watchmen, they get concerned that maybe somebody's working with the feds, and the FBI agents tell the FBI Fed informants to blame somebody else. Okay, the text message between Dan and S.A. Impola, this is a PDF. Counsel does not have the native data. Counsel continues to believe these text messages was inadvertently disclosed. Can you see that? As the government continues to oppose disclosure of these communications. So the lying government accidentally gave them these text messages. The red redacted located on the text message was applied by counsel and blocks Dan's full name and phone number that are contained on the unredacted text, meaning that the defense got this material unredacted because the prosecution just missed it. They went through all of their evidence and they would disclose some of it and then keep some of it behind the curtain. Then this got disclosed. Defense attorneys look into it. They say, oh my gosh, they didn't even redact it. So they just didn't see it. And it ends up in the defense attorney's hands. Their lies. We're going to look at them here. All defense counsel in this case have had Dan's personal information for many months. The text message reads as follows. You'll notice redacted. So we have Dan, who's responding to one of the FBI agents, says, getting it now. FBI agent responds, thanks. What's the schedule for tonight? Dan says, continue live fire shoot house. We're going back to the hotel tonight. I think I'm going to get pressed. What's he talking about? He's going to get pressed by Joe, Pete Musico. They talked to Paul 2 weeks ago. They're thinking I'm a Fed. So the people who are part of the Watchmen Wolverines or whatever, they think that Dan, this guy, is a Fed. Dan says to the FBI agent, I've got a handle on it. Don't worry. FBI agent says, shoot, you're going to be okay? How did this happen? Be sure to delete these. Talking about these text messages, right? This is from an FBI agent telling an informant, cover up your messages. Dan says, I've been good. It's all good. Pete and him just being crazy. Paul told him, I'm good. FBI agent says, copy. Best thing to do is deny and accuse somebody else like Trent. Pick on Trent here. Yes, sir. I have Croft coming to me to train Ty's place. Says, yes, sir. FBI agent says, well, cover this up and blame somebody else. You're not the person responsible here. Incriminate somebody else, which is passing liability, right? So what if they say, oh, well, they're the feds, so we're going to go kill that person then, or we're going to go abuse that person? Here's this broken down a little bit more. The text thread states that Joe Morrison and Pete, they talked to Paul. They believed that Paul and Dan were federal agents. So FBI says, you going to be okay? Be sure to delete these things. Joe Morrison, Pete Musico, and Paul Bellar, they're original members of the Wolverine Watchmen. They were charged in Michigan State Court with multiple felonies. So they're all part of the same deal. This is a different case. Now, second says, copy, accuse somebody else like Trent. Defense attorney says, well, first, the special agent is advising Dan to delete information on his phone. This is another reason that Caserta needs the information, because other information might have been deleted from Dan's phone on instruction from the FBI. So if he's going to delete these messages, how many other messages did he delete or have been instructed to be deleted? The FBI is just evaporating evidence. Second, Impola is telling the FBI paid informant to lie and to implicate someone else as a federal agent. FBI delivers the patsy, Trent. Dan dutifully responds, yes, sir. Ready and willing to follow orders. Trent is known to counsel, happens to be a real human being who you're going to be putting in harm's way. Trent was on the outskirts of the Wolverine Watchmen, not charged in any crimes. So they're going to bring in a completely innocent person into this. Hasn't been charged with anything. FBI telling its paid agent, Dan, to put a target on Trent's back, specifically directing Dan to tell Pete, somebody like Trent is spying on Pete. Special agent from the FBI knew about this very issue in the state preliminary examination, and guess what? He claimed not to know about it. So he lied about it. Question from the defense attorney, who's amazing, says, and your testimony was that you were not aware of anyone in the Watchmen Club claiming that Mr. Bellar was in fact an informant or a Fed. Do you recall that testimony? Says, I do. Is that still your testimony today? Says, yeah, it is. S. Impola denied knowledge of this issue, even though he texted Dan to delete his text messages. Okay, because he says that. You were not aware of anyone claiming that he was an informant or a Fed. Yeah, not aware. Still your testimony today? Yeah, not aware. Wrong, because we see in your text messages that you were. You accused someone like Trent of being a federal agent. At the Jackson preliminary exam, Impola was then impeached with an FBI report written by his partners, S.A. Chambers, so another FBI agent, indicating complete coverage of this issue. This is not the first time that the special agent has had trouble telling the truth under oath. Impola was formally accused of twice committing perjury about a month before this investigation began by a former prosecutor, assistant U.S. attorney. After being confronted with proof that he was aware of the issue, he conceded knowledge. So before we get there, he lied under oath already. Twice committed perjury about a month before this investigation. S.A. Impola, still on the force, still investigating people, and now directly coaching FBI agents to delete their text messages and then to blame other innocent people who are not even a part of the underlying allegations to pin it on them. FBI agent. Right now. After being confronted with the proof that he was aware of this issue, he finally conceded knowledge. He already lied about this in court, but says, okay, so one of either of you or your partner wrote that, talking about his partner's conversation. And you would agree with me here. This synopsis reads that Musico then video called CHS, which is Dan, multiple times. Musico potted, I'm assuming that the theory that the confidential informant was the Fed, Paul Pellar was the informant, you, and then he also talked about other individuals. So on September 5th of 2020, it's clear from this that members of the Watchmen think that Mr. Bellar may be some kind of informant, correct? No, that's not correct. That's not correct. When you say members of the Watchmen, this is an individual conversation with Pete, so it's Pete's opinion. Who's one of the leaders of the Watchmen, correct? Yes, he says. At the same hearing, Impola recalled the story that Musico had told. He says, so Pete Musico told members of the group that in the past he'd been pulled over for speeding. He obtained officers' names, found out where he lives, done surveillance of that officer's house, thrown a Molotov cocktail at the house, and he decided not to shoot the officer when he did that. The FBI here, this officer says, this defense lawyer says, the FBI is instructing a paid FBI informant to lie and to paint an innocent citizen as an undercover federal agent to a man they claim is the head of a domestic terrorist organization. They claim he's paranoid about being infiltrated by the feds, who they claim has bragged about tossing a Molotov cocktail into the police officer's house. This behavior, evidenced by the conversations between the FBI, casts a dark shadow over the credibility of this investigation, demonstrates the need for immediate disclosure. Clearly, this information is relevant to the defense, and the government should not be allowed to decide whether we get it or not. Counsel has 1,100 pages of documents. Had those for a long time. Dan was on every chat, every indicted defendant before the court. He was on encrypted chats, social media, text messages, otherwise with defendants that are now charged in state courts. Dan was everywhere. Dan, to the extent that his information was destroyed at the direction of the FBI, the defense needs all of that regarding the investigation. The defense needs this material at this point is self-evident. It's for the purposes of the entrapment defense. It's for the purpose of the credibility of the government witnesses. And it questions the government methods and tactics. Infuriating when, therefore, we request all this stuff. Give us all the information between all the special agents and Dan, all of the Facebook direct messages, text messages, photos, videos, and other things. Signed off on here by Michael D. Hills, who is out in Kalamazoo, Michigan, over at hillslawoffice.com. Outstanding work from Michael Hills, defense lawyer, doing very good work there. Let's take a look at some questions or some super chats. I think some of them may have come in. We're going to see what we've got over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Have a couple questions here. FBI is trash, says that the FBI creates half the terrorist plots and it can only entrap people for terrorism. That is from the FBI is trash. We have here Yummy Yum says, can't read that one. Now that's an inappropriate one. Kind of funny though. Sergeant Bob says, I am relieved since the feds were involved. We can rest assured that the kidnap was planned to exploit Gretchen for sexual purposes. That's right. I wonder if Gretchen Whitmer has PTSD like AOC does, because she also thought that she was going to be sexually assaulted for some reason. FBI's back in the house, says the FBI is trying to entrap people to cover it up. They would use Signal with disappearing messages for communication. Also, Robert, you should get the Streamlab donations where you get more money. You can punish Susan and the people. So we could do that. It's just a lot of, I don't want to split it up between a number of different platforms, but I thank you for your suggestion. I also would agree, right? If the FBI is using those encrypted platforms, they could get away with a lot of different things, can't they? Sergeant Bob is here, says, I have come to love the big, beautiful spotlight. You have successfully implanted the chip into a retired cop's brain. Well done. Well, Sergeant Bob, that's all part of the master plan, right? It's a game of inches, just every little day, just like it's that jingle in your head. I can never get it out of there. It's working. Now, actually, people don't like that. Some people don't like that. I've gotten some feedback on the beautiful spotlight, and they say, Rob, it's kind of goofy. You know, you're not a goofy guy. You're sort of a serious guy. What are you doing? And I say, well, we have to shine it. So we have to say it. It's part of the show. It's just how it has to be. Sorry if you don't like it. Thunder7 says, this is unbelievable, Rob, but not surprising because the FBI are the criminals, whether it's Whitmergate, Obamagate, January 6th gate. They no longer have any credibility. Too woke and too corrupt to be reformed. Yeah, they've lost a lot of credibility in the last years, certainly. NY Renal MD says expoliation of evidence, Robert. Have agents erased text messages? Remember, it's not the weight of the evidence, it's the seriousness of the charge. We need a special prosecutor. I agree. I think this is so heinous. And if this is actually true, if they did actually get this evidence through an inadvertent disclosure, and the prosecutor's office saw this and they didn't disclose it or anything more like this, that should be such a serious repercussion against those prosecutors. I can't even begin to tell you how angry that makes me, but it wouldn't surprise me for a minute. We have here Lorenzo Greasybottom says, there's a lot of reasons these FBI guys need to be arrested, but the main reason is for stopping. Lorenzo, I can't read that. I got to be extra careful with your questions. We're going to leave it at that. The last villain says, sounds right. Dems outsourcing their insidious plan to others. We can't wait. Is that, I think that's in this one. We can't mandate, but businesses can. We can't subvert free speech, but social media can. We can't go against the Supreme Court, but the CDC can. We can't get these Trump people to stay in their place, but the FBI can. We can't win that election, but thank you for following the YouTube rules there, the last villain. But you're absolutely right. Trump's on Hannity tonight. Hurry up, Rob. That's from Want to Know. We've got one more segment there. We're going to have to, I guess, pick up the pace if you're trying to catch that. Over on YouTube, let's see what we've got. We had some super chats come in. Sach is here. Sach, I think, is over on Locals, too. I think Sach had a very good comment on Locals, if you missed that. But says, hey, Rob, all the COVID mandates have been discussing really hit close to home today. My girlfriend is a healthy young woman who is now being forced to get the vaccine or she will be terminated. What can we do? It's a great question. You know, on these issues, I have been referring all of these questions to a local employment lawyer here in Arizona. So I would do that. If it is in Arizona, send me an email or shoot me a message and I'll tell you who that is. But if it's not in Arizona, I would reach out to a local employment lawyer. And if you just kind of Google that, you'll probably see a couple lawyers who are at the forefront of this, right? Some lawyers are really sinking their teeth into this, as they should. And they're seeing this as an opportunity to go serve people. They're saying a lot of people are going to have problems with this. I can help them through this. And they're going to talk to you about different exemptions and different contractual obligations and different safety obligations that are applicable under your local environment, right? In your local context. And so because there's so many different jurisdictions, it's hard for me to offer anything more substantive than that. I would certainly reach out to a local attorney, probably charge you a couple $100 for a evaluation, which I think is absolutely worth it in that case. Consider it a medical exam, right? Something like that, because that's unfortunately what this is turning into. That was from Sach. Patrick, thank you, Sach, for that very nice support. We have Patrick here says, how about the FBI arresting the guy who exposed Omar for immigration fraud by marrying her brother? The DNA evidence shows and exposed her. I saw that headline. I think, wasn't the DNA like swabbed from a cigarette butt from her? So the story is that Ilhan Omar married her brother, allegedly, right? Don't want to say stuff that is not true. And then some group did a report where they actually went and they got a DNA sample from a cigarette butt and also from her alleged husband, and they compared the two, and apparently they're related, according to that headline. But I don't know that for a fact, so go read that. We have Eddie says, you know, Rob, it's not paranoia if they really are after you. Forget the Alamo. Remember Waco. Yeah, in Texas. Yeah, good point there, Eddie Oliver. Thank you for that support and for chiming in here. We have one more here from Locals says, John Halgreen says, the modern FBI is so disappointing. As a young man, my home was raided by the FBI. The agents were very nice and careful to respect our rights. So weird to see this behavior by law enforcement. John, thank you, John, for that. John helps me out by putting in the necessary turns of phrase or pauses or articulation emphasis on the reading of the comments, which is great, because I need a little variety on this. Thank you, John. Please continue it. We have Eddie Oliver is also chiming in, says, this case is weird. Weird like a bunch of insurrectionists being charged with nothing but trespassing. Weird. Yeah. Same FBI. Yeah. Kind of a bunch of nothing burger there. A lot of malfeasance, a lot of open questions, a lot of discovery problems, them not wanting to hand over evidence that the defense is entitled to. Weird. Same FBI agent. Same FBI department, right? The same FBI in both cases. Brody Z says, tweak the info for your propaganda. Yeah, so tweak the info for your propaganda. That's for Brody Z. He might be talking about my propaganda, and I'm always looking for tweakings, for tweaks. Yeah, I'm always looking to improve, so I'm open to suggestions. All right, those were great questions, all from watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and tremendous support from YouTube as well. Big shout outs to Brody, Eddie again, Patrick Soch in the house, Kelly Selnow, and Eddie Oliver again. Really appreciate all of that love. We have Scumpy is my daddy. Is in the house, which is a great name. Says, thank you for everything you do. Trust in Grueler. Thank you, Scumpy. Is my daddy in the house. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for watching. Before you head out, I want to just remind you that I am a criminal defense lawyer here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where my team and we've got a long history of helping good people facing criminal charges to find safety, clarity, and hope in their cases and beyond that in their lives. Our phone number for a free case evaluation is 480-787-0394. You can also find us online at www.rrlawaz.com. We can help with any type of criminal charge in the state of Arizona. Things like DUI, drug offenses, misdemeanor offenses. And we can also help with clearing up old case records, like expunging cases or making sure that you can restore your rights so that you can vote again or possess a firearm again or apply for some other federal benefits. We can remove mugshots off the internet. Basically, anytime that you or somebody you know or love is in trouble with the law in the state of Arizona, we have an amazing team of people. We would just love the opportunity to help. And our phone number, of course, 480-787-0394. And if you don't need any legal services, that's a very good thing, but you may be interested in some informational offerings so that you are prepared if you do have to deal with the police. And of course, I want to invite you to head on over to gumroad.com/Robert Grueler. You'll notice here, I've got several different trainings that are available, including the law enforcement interaction training. This is the 1, 2, 3 rule for dealing with the police. It's one rule you need, 2 questions that the police can ask of you, and 3 responses if they ask you a problematic question. So that's available now. You can also get a load at my personal productivity system here called Existence Systems. Fun little course. And then we have here, if you're a lawyer or a legal professional, be sure to check out this program. We are meeting twice every month. Again, all of this over at gumroad.com/Robert Grueler. And if none of that sounds any good to you, well, just go ahead and give us a follow, because I'm working on some other products and some other offerings. And of course, if you have not already done so, want to invite you one more time to head on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It's where you can support the show, and it's where we can connect. We've got monthly Zoom meetings and a lot of other goodies coming up. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for watching and for all of your love and support. I will see you on the next one.